Moving Wisconsin forward, one joke at a time. This is As Goes Wisconsin with Kristen Bry.
So it goes, and so it goes, and so it goes, and so it goes. Where it's going, no one knows. Hello, Wisconsin!
Now, filling in for the new mom, here's Jane Matinaire.
Good morning and welcome to As Goes Wisconsin. Coming to you live from our studio in beautiful downtown Waukesha. Greg Bach is on the board. It's really weird to be all alone in here without you sitting across from me. It's very, very odd. You can always join us, 844-967-2789, 844-96.
Party.
Or if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, you can leave comments there as well. Lots of things coming up on the show today. Dan Schaefer will be here at 10:33, so we can recombobulate. And then next hour at 11:33, Dr. Jill Underly, she is the state superintendent of public instruction, is going to be joining us to talk about some of the challenges that are facing our schools and our students and what DPI is doing to address those things. That is next hour. We're going to start off, though, with this Clarence Thomas story that ProPublica came out with yesterday. It's pretty amazing.
It hasn't made me like him anymore. I will say he is a human.
He is a human, and apparently a pretty happy human. Okay, so if you didn't read this ProPublica article, essentially Clarence Thomas had been on the court for about a decade. He'd been on the Supreme Court for about 10 years, and he was at some fancy getaway and
called Awakening.
Called Awakening, yes. A fancy island resort in Sea Island, Georgia. He was hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, and he was complaining to a Republican about, if I don't get a raise, I might resign. And there might be other conservative justices who will resign. And so there were efforts to give the Supremes a raise, which never actually happened.
Nope.
They make $173,000 a year,
which is about $300,000 right now.
Yeah, that doesn't sound too bad to me.
I could spend that money easily.
Do you think you could get by on that?
I think I could. I really do.
If you budget?
Oh, yeah, definitely with some good budgeting. I use that Quicken software.
So shortly after this conversation that Clarence Thomas had with this Republican lawmaker, he started getting prezzies. He started getting gifts from people like Texas billionaire Harlan Crow.
You know what? Honestly, for Harlan Crow, he gets this.
Excellent evil laugh. Yes, excellent evil laugh.
I'll get you, Batman.
It's, oh boy. Thomas told Republican Representative Cliff Stearns again that you need to look into a bill to raise the salaries of the members of the Supreme Court. As we agreed, Stearns wrote to Clarence Thomas, as we agreed, it is worth a lot to Americans to have the Constitution properly interpreted.
I don't. Okay, all right. I bet you there's a lot of people who could do it for $173,000.
So again, they ultimately did not give justices the major raise that Clarence Thomas had been pushing for. They also did not lift a ban on justices accepting speaking fees, which he had also sought. And that's something you and I talked about off the air a little bit yesterday, Greg, about whether or not the Supreme should be able to do that.
I think they should be, as long as the speech isn't wading into judicial territory that will make it murky. But here's the thing is even if they go to a school, say they go to Harvard to speak, and let's say 5 years down the road, Harvard's involved in a case, they recuse themselves. I don't think speaking for money should not be allowed. They allow, congressmen can do it, senators can do it, presidents can do it, and they have strict ways of marking that money and making sure it's not being used nefariously. So, this whole thing of we keep them insulated so they can do their job. Well, we found that there's ways around that.
Oh, yeah. Big time. 844-967-2789, 844-96.
Party.
I'm curious, should our justices be allowed to get speaking fees? Because the one thing that's pointed out in this ProPublica article, essentially, the justices usually spend the majority of their lives on the court, right?
Yeah, a long time.
A very, very, very long time. So when their term is over, it's not like they can become a lobbyist or, jump to some other very lucrative position. So the speaking fees, I guess I could see that. I don't think that would be terrible.
But I think here's the thing too, is if, let's say a justice gets on the court at the age of, in their 40s and they spend 20, 30 years, 60s, 70s, are retired, there's plenty of things they can do to make money. They can go on speaking engagements. They can write books. They can there are jobs out there for them. It's just they choose to stay on until they're in their 80s or they're dead.
There is that. Yeah. At the time of his conversation, again, back in 2000, Clarence Thomas was making $173,600 annually, but was already hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. That also raises questions to me when we're talking about judicial temperament and the ability to interpret the Constitution, and yet you're really bad with money.
Well,
it's like, what?
One of the things they talked about was the fact that even though they were in debt, they bought a house back in like the 90s that was over $500,000.
It was $522,000.
You're in debt because you're not fiscally responsible, which, by the way, is supposed to be one of the cornerstones of your party. But when you're two people, and this is before the kids showed up, you're two people. Why do you need a $523,000 house if you are in debt? Why do you need that? You don't. And I'm not saying I don't care, but it's also, I'm not, oh my gosh, I feel so bad for him.
You're not feeling bad for Clarence Thomas?
I never have, I never will.
I would agree with you.
Yeah.
It's just remarkable to me that nothing has happened, even with all the revelations about Harlan Crow buying Clarence Thomas's mama house.
Yeah.
Giving him a $267,000 RV. Yeah. And the loan is just magically forgiven.
And people paying for their adopted son's education in private schools. And he's not going to like Catholic Memorial or, Marquette High School. He's probably going to like these Eden, Exeter type schools that are like $50,000-$60,000 a year, and they're prep schools where this, these are highfalutin schools where these kids are going to go on to the Ivy Leagues and influence laws and things like that.
Yep.
So yeah, it's oopsie, he forgot to tell us.
Yeah, and again, there have been, I guess, the only fallout that came from this was that they wrote up their own code of ethics. They wrote up their own judicial code of ethics, and yet there is no enforcement mechanism as far as punishment.
Jane, the justices got together this year, all 9 of them. All 9 of them. And I say all 9 of them because 3 of you I'm supremely, and that's a pun, supremely disappointed in when you said, no, thank you on the oversight. We can take care of this ourselves. Well, you can't, you don't. And I'm sorry, there needs to be more oversight. There needs to be more, like, you have rules, let's stick to them.
There's an idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's an idea. And I think, too, with the current view of the Supreme Court in this country, this is not helping their reputation. All of these revelations are not helping any of them. And as you pointed out, we've got some Democrats now on the Supreme Court, and they all signed on to like, oh, no, we're good.
Yeah.
We're all good.
No, we don't need your help. So sorry, no, there's nobody home. We gave it the office. Goodbye.
This has been working well for us. And certainly it's been working really well for Clarence Thomas since 2000. So the last 23 years.
And probably before that too. I mean, come on, let's be honest. It's a pretty sweet gig if you can get it. And the whole, if this whole, if you don't raise our pay, some of us can resign. Goodbye.
Oh,
goodbye.
Yes, but then again, they would have lost the majority on the court. You want to keep that majority, Greg. That's That's what's important.
Yeah.
That's what's important. 844-967-2789, 844-96.
Party. I wasn't sure if you're going to say it. I saw it because I got a profile view of you now, and you were about to, and I didn't want to interrupt you, but here we go. Party.
Clarence Thomas, this is all good. Should they be able to get speaking gigs if they can't manage their money? I find that more troubling than just about anything, that he's that bad with money.
I don't think not being able to manage your money should preclude you from a job unless your job is, say, in finance. But it's certainly like if you gave me more of a hard Scrabble story about his past, his history, and it was like I was working 3 jobs and going to law school, and it was me and Ginny, and we lived in a 2-bedroom house, and the blah blah blah. Oh, that sucks. I mean, we all go through that stuff. We've all been through. We've all looked at our bank account, and we've been broke. We've been hard up for money. We've had to ask for help.
Yes,
but not a bit of sorry do I feel when you're buying over a $500,000 home and you have money problem and an RV. RV isn't even like the 6th vehicle you buy when you have money. Are you kidding me? Like, get a car, get a truck, get a sports car, get a motorcycle, get a Vespa.
A Vespa.
Oh, totally.
Oh yeah, I can see Clarence on a Vespa. Ciao.
Ciao bello.
Ciao bello.
Ciao bello.
Ciao bello. 844-967-2789. Karina is on the phone. Good morning, Karina. How are you feeling about Justice Thomas this morning?
I feel disgusting because there is always a choice. Guys, you work for a radio and you come from the different places and you end up on the show today. A man went through a law school. He had the choice to go to the private company, work for 15 years, become a partner, have a lot of money. He chose to be a servant for the government. He knew what he's going for.
Thank you so
People
much, Karina.
who do that,
Thank you, Karina. We are up against the wall here. If you want to chime in on this, Clarence Thomas skating on good ice.
Good thick ice.
844-967-2789. Stay close. This is As Goes Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Everybody, near and far, I'm going to Paris to stop this war. All those cats got to listen to me because I am the judge and you can plainly see. I want a big round table when I get there. I won't sit down to wonder square. I'm going to lay down the law.
This is the Shaw WAUK.
If you have unfiled taxes or are in debt to the IRS, this is important news. The IRS just rolled out a new program to help struggling taxpayers more easily resolve their tax problems. It's called the Taxpayer Relief Initiative, and it opens up powerful new options for people looking to get back on the right track with the IRS. And no one knows this program like the professionals at Optima Tax Relief, America's most trusted tax resolution company. They've resolved over $1 billion in tax debt for their clients and have the expertise and experience to help you. One easy call to Optima can start the process, helping to put an end to your worries of wage garnishment, asset seizure, and other aggressive IRS actions. Make today the beginning of your fresh start with the IRS. Call the experts at Optima Tax Relief now for your free confidential consultation.
Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
You're listening to the Shaw WAUK.
On you. Come November election time, you vote your way and I vote mine. Here's
Good
the
morning
time the
and
money gets
welcome
spent.
to As Goes Wisconsin. Jane Matnair in for Kristen Bry. Greg Bach is on the board. You can always join us at 844-967-2789. If you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, you can leave a comment there as well. Coming up in just a couple of minutes, Dan Schaefer will be here as we recombobulate, as we always do every Tuesday from 10:30 to 11 o'clock. Right now, we're talking about Clarence Thomas' big ProPublica article yesterday, explaining how in the early 2000s, after Clarence had been on the bench of the Supreme Court for about 10 years, hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, complained to a Republican lawmaker he ran into at some fancy schmancy resort that, if I don't get a raise, I'm gonna resign. And there might be another conservative justice who will resign, and then you guys are gonna have problems. So he wanted an increase in pay. He wanted them to be able to legitimately get speaking fees. None of that actually happened, but there were payoffs being made, some very lavish gifts that Clarence Thomas has received. So if you want to chime in, 844-967-2789. Tom is on the line from Eau Claire. Good morning, Tom. Thanks for joining us, Goes Wisconsin.
I say so. If I'm following you correct, I just clarify this for me. You guys don't think he should be eligible for his job anymore because he received payments that were forgiven, loans that were forgiven. Is that correct?
I'm saying that these are I think these are kinds of questionable things. And
I agree with that too. I don't care. And honestly, I wouldn't care if it was a senator or a state senator or, congressman or, governor or honestly a president. I don't think that, $5 million in debt forgiven is something we should overlook. And I don't care if it's honestly, if it was 20,000, 25,000, 100,000 or whatnot. So how do you fix that?
Well, I think transparency would probably fix some things. And at least they should, at least when you're receiving gifts of this magnitude, Tom, they should be reported on your filings. And it's my understanding that at least many of these things, Clarence Thomas did not put in his official filings that he was accepting these large sums. That seems problematic to me.
And neither did our president. So, on that level, it's not just one form of government. I mean, we have to fix the whole form of government. I mean, it's not just a justice getting, taking monies, taking bribes. I mean, we'll never fix our government system because lobbyists, we pay them, but honestly, do we pay them that well? And you'll never get rid of lobbyists because the government will never vote out lobbyists because they give them too much money. I mean, you wouldn't vote down a raise for yourself, and you wouldn't expect that out of a congressman or a senator either.
Oh, for sure. And the other thing too, Tom, they're never going to get rid of lobbyists because half the time when they leave governments, they become lobbyists.
So the only way to prevent that, the only way to, you're calling one person out. I mean, you have to call it the entire government. It's not just, Clarence Thomas. It's every one of them. 9 that sit on that court has taken money. And every one of our congressmen has taken money. Every one of our senators have taken money. I mean, our presidents, our vice presidents.
Wouldn't it be, Tom, wouldn't it be a good thing to get rid of Citizens United then, where money is speech?
It is. The money is speech, money's power, and then until you take that away from them, until you can find a way to get that out of our system will be corrupt.
By getting rid of Citizens United, the system would be corrupt.
The system is corrupt because we pay them. I mean, we allow it to happen. Like we sit there and we just look the other way every day. Is all of our and this ain't a Republican or a Democratic problem. I mean, this is a government problem.
Okay, Tom.
We sit there and look the other way.
No, I hear you. It's we got to shine some light on some of this stuff, right? That's why we're talking about it. Whether or not this is going to affect change or not remains to be seen. But I appreciate your call, Tom. Have a great day. Thank you. 844-967-2789. 844-96.
Party.
And I think we should get rid of Citizens United.
I do too. But it also goes back to the idea of, yes, there's corruption, but we're talking about Clarence Thomas right now. And, it's one thing at a time. One thing at a time.
Texter from the 312 listening here on WAUK. Karina's right. If Clarence Thomas wanted more money, he should have gone into private practice. This tells me he may have been a bad attorney.
I mean, that's the thing is his pedigree, he doesn't have like the great, like a lot of these people come from like Harvard and I know he went to good schools, but he also worked in the government for a long time too. And was it a thing of like He'll vote for us. He'll vote with us. That's a company man right there. Let's give him a shot.
Well, and certainly Clarence Thomas came from a challenge background, right? He didn't come from a background of privilege.
Yeah.
And made something of himself. But again, I find this, when we're talking about such large sums of money, and as Tom from Eau Claire said too, it's a problem all across the board. It is a problem all across the board. And wouldn't it be nice if they were not all getting paid off?
Yeah.
What a wonderful world it would be.
What a wonderful world it would be if there just wasn't more oversight that was strictly enforced, and the people, me and you, who pay their salaries weren't the ones who were being protected first. That'd be nice.
It would be nice. That would be very, very
Oh, what
nice.
a world it would be.
Well, if wishes were, I don't know, there's a phrase there that I can't,
Hey-o.
if wishes were dishes or something like that. All right. That's not exactly how that works.
I don't know.
Dan Schaefer is coming up with the recombobulation area. Stay close for that next hour. Dr. Jill Underly will be joining us. She is the state superintendent of public instruction. Going to talk about some of the challenges that are facing our schools and our students and our teachers. That is coming up at 11:33, 11 o'clock. We're talking music, Greg Bach. This should make you very happy.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking tunes and some of the biggest shows that were at AmFam Field this year, and some of the other venues around Wisconsin. That is all on the way, so stay with us. You're listening to As Goes Wisconsin. We are on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Psycho and Vanzetti are gone. They left me here to sing this song. Psycho's born across the sea, somewhere over in Italy. Vanzetti born of parents fine, drank the best Italian wine. Psycho sailed to sea one day, landed up in the Boston Bay. Vanzetti sailed the ocean blue and landed up in Boston too. Two good men's a long time gone. Two good men's a long time gone. Two good men's a long time gone. Left me here to sing this song. Psycho's wife 3 children had. Psycho was a family man. Vanzetti was a dreaming man. His book was always in his hands. Psycho earned his bread and butter, being the factory's best shoe cutter. Vanzetti spoke both day and night, told the workers how to fight. Two good men a long time gone. Two good men a long time gone. Two good men a long time gone. Left me here to sing this song. I'll tell you if you ask me about this payroll robbery. 2 clerks is killed by the shoe factory on the street in South Braintree. Judge there told his friends around that he had cut the radicals down. Anarchist bastard was the name Judge Thayer called these 2
Wisconsin informed, engaged, and entertained. This is The Shaw, 5:40 a.m. at 101.1 FM, WAUK.
Civic Media News, I'm Terry Bell. Here's what Wisconsin needs to know. Quick Trip is expanding operations and plans to hire 500 more people in Wisconsin by 2027. The La Crosse-based chain of convenience stores plans to invest $151 million of its own money and $15 million worth of help from the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation. Among other things, the new investment focuses on expanding Quick Trip's dairy, commissary, and bakery facilities. Wisconsin is getting $5.2 million in grant money to improve transportation access for seniors and people with disabilities. Governor Evers says they'll get more help in getting a ride to and from work, the grocery store, and doctor's appointments. The governor says the program has helped pay for more than 2,000 vehicles since the mid-1970s. I'm Terry Bell, Civic Media News. Now, here's what you need to know closer to home.
For WAUK News, I'm Stuart J. Waddles. President Biden is scheduled to return to Milwaukee tomorrow. Talking up small business is what the White House says the visit is all about. There's still no word about specific details, but be prepared for possible interstate shutdowns during the trip. Biden's live remarks will be carried on this Civic Media station. A recent Marquette Law School poll has President Biden holding a narrow lead over Donald Trump among Wisconsin voters. Property tax bills are starting to show up, with state officials trying to help homeowners save some bucks. The Wisconsin Department of Revenue is urging homeowners to apply for the lottery and gaming property tax credit. Eligible state residents are those who owned a home and used it as their primary place of residence on January 1st of this year. To qualify for the credit, property owners must complete an application and submit it to their county treasurer. Walgreens is closing another Milwaukee location. The store at Teutonia and Capitol will close January 15th. And that's what you need to know. I'm Stuart J. Waddles, WAUK News.
The more than 27,000 union carpenters who called the North Central States home wish you a healthy, happy, and safe holiday season. Unions built the middle class, and union carpenters work hard every day to build our communities while they build good careers that provide for their families. This season, we hope you get to enjoy time with friends and family. Happy holidays from Executive Secretary Treasurer Pat Nelson and the staff of the North Central States Regional Council of Carpenters.
Basketball tonight at Fiserv Forum. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. The Milwaukee Bucks host the San Antonio Spurs tonight, and then they host the Orlando Magic on Thursday. Milwaukee with a 4-game winning streak. College basketball, the Marquette Golden Eagles up a couple of spots now, ranked 6th in the nation. They're on the road tonight against Providence. The Wisconsin Badgers moved down to 24th. They host Chicago State Friday night at the Kohl Center. NFL, after missing the past month with a sprained knee, Packers running back Aaron Jones was off to a good start Sunday until the Buccaneers defense started putting 10 men on the line to stop him. I spoke to Jones at his locker.
The adjustments they made, they brought everybody down in the box, and you're seeing 10, 11 people in the box, and it's hard to get a gap or get some movement then, but we still got to find a way. Execution details, they're probably going to be slanting some fronts, blitzing some DBs off the edge, and we got to pick that up. We got to be ready for it and run and pass game.
That's Packers running back Aaron Jones. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
I'm meteorologist Brittany Merlot. Under a mix of sun and clouds today, high temperatures a touch warmer, reaching highs into the mid-30s. Those winds are calming down, only gusting up to 15 miles per hour. So while we may feel crisp wind chills early, the wind pulling out of the south is actually going to aid in rising our temperatures for the rest of the week. Currently, it's 15.
Timeout. All right. Remember, we're a team that plays together. Listen, the winning will take care of itself. We just have to get everyone involved.
In interscholastic sports, we celebrate what makes every one of us unique. And in the pursuit of a common goal, everyone in the huddle, in the bleachers, and in the community comes together. This message presented by the WIAA and the Wisconsin Athletic Directors Association.
Your home of the Earl Ingram Show, weekday mornings from 8 till 10 on The Shaw, 540 AM and 101.1 FM WAUK.
Welcome to As Goes Wisconsin. Jane Matt there. And for Kristen Bride, Greg Bach is on the board. You can always join us at 844-967-2789. And just a reminder, make sure you download the Civic Media app before you head out for the holidays. And you can download podcasts and take us with you wherever you go if you're going to be on the road for the holidays. As he is every Tuesday at this time, we are joined by the award-winning author of The Recombobulation Area, Dan Schaefer is here. Good morning, Dan. How you doing?
Good morning, Jane. Good morning, Greg. Good to be with you. How is everybody doing?
It is so cold in here. I'm going to have to
How
start.
cold is it?
I'm going to have to start a fire. It is freezing.
It is
in
actually
here.
really cold in the house, but you know what? It's nice and crisp and warm in the producer's booth. Hello.
Well, that's good for you. So I'm going to be jumping around quite a bit just so I don't freeze solid into place as we continue recombobulating. So Dan, we're going to start with this. I did not see this. You sent this to me. This Meet the Press, and they talked to a bunch of young male voters in Dane County, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it was a Meet the Press segment on Wisconsin and on voters young voters in Madison who were maybe not super enthused about Joe Biden and his reelection prospects and just his tenure in general. But I think it was also interesting that they sat down and talked with a number of these young men, and as they expressed some discontent with Biden, many of the people that they interviewed there also didn't want to vote for Trump either. So it was sounded like more of a question of whether these voters, who again, as you mentioned, were all men in that roundtable, that they had a little bit of trepidation about voting for Biden, but maybe we're not going to vote for Trump either. And I think this is kind of the moment we're in right now. I think people are. There is some discontent with Biden. I think there are some voters on the left who are upset about his handling of the war in Israel, and I think that is, and I think just generally the country is so polarized that approval ratings are never going to be high for presidents in this day and age. They weren't high for Trump. They weren't particularly good for Obama, and I think this is just kind of the nature of where we are. And I think it's just a very interesting segment looking a year out. But I think, perhaps if they talk to some women, perhaps if they talk to a more diverse group of people, that they could have got a response that was perhaps a little bit different. I know there was so often during the Trump years that the national media loved to go to every diner in the Midwest to interview people and say, "Are you still voting for Trump?" "Yes, we are." "Okay." But I just don't think that type of coverage has been there for the Biden voters in the same way. So I think it's going to be a frustrating media cycle, I think, and it's going to be important for the Biden campaign, for Democrats, for liberal voices to be out there, talking about the good things that have happened under this administration. And Joe Biden's coming to Milwaukee tomorrow. It's going to be interesting to see, what that visit is going to be like, where he's going to end up going, what the focus of that will be, what message he wants to convey to voters in Milwaukee and in Wisconsin, in this crucial swing state where we're now less than a year away from that election day, and we're going to be one of the 5 or 6 states that's going to decide the election. So here we go. We're getting into it now. It's getting real.
Be perfect. Steel yourselves, because it's going to be a long year. The one thing I think, though, Dan, that stood out to me from that Meet the Press clip, a little bit that I was able to watch, all these guys said, I can't think of one issue on which I don't have a problem with Biden. They didn't. So what are these issues? I couldn't find an identifying. What is it? Is it the economy? Is it the, the war with Hamas in Israel? Is it the support for Ukraine? What are their issues that they're so unhappy with?
Yeah, I think one of them that they expressed was on climate change. And look, of course, there's many things we could be doing, but the Inflation Reduction Act included the largest investment in green and renewable energy in the nation's history. So there's one example. I think it's difficult at times for Democrats to get these messages across because some of the work can be so detailed and nuanced. It doesn't often fit in the type of soundbite. It doesn't often, having the largest investment in infrastructure since the Eisenhower administration is an important and great thing. The bipartisan infrastructure law. It's a little bit it doesn't exactly fit into the snappy soundbite that you might see. So I think there's going to be some challenges to understanding that message and really, connecting with people where we have, a situation in the economy where there's a lot of indicators going in the right direction now. 5% GDP growth, the stock market at an all-time high, but that's not the full picture of the economy. There's still people struggling. But so I think it's going to be a difficult way to kind of thread that needle for the Biden administration going forward on that reelection campaign.
But I was disappointed by that interviewer in not pushing these guys on. So what is the issue? Tell me these issues. Be specific. Show me your worksheet.
Yeah, we need to get these guys on As Goes Wisconsin. We need the Jane McNair intense interview here to really find out what these guys are upset about, right?
Well, again, though, it's just it's this. These generalized, I don't know. I don't feel good and I don't like it. That's not an answer.
We got a text from the 608 saying much of the time people say they are not happy with Biden because that's what they're supposed to say. And I think that's true because we've talked about that with the economy. People think the economy is terrible because people just always think the economy is terrible because it's never good for them. So they're just like, yeah, Biden sucks. Why? I don't know. He just does.
Well, and it's funny that you mentioned, Dan, that President Biden is going to be here tomorrow, as you pointed out, and the stock market hit record highs. And the former president predicted that the stock market was going to crash should Joe Biden be elected president. And that hasn't actually happened.
Yeah, a lot of people were predicting a recession this year. They said, "Oh, a chance of a recession." I think there was like a Bloomberg article a year ago saying the chance of recession in 2023 was near 100%. Here we are at the end of 2023, and we haven't had a recession. Maybe what's happening here is that a lot of these economic indicators are out front, and maybe there's like a lagging effect where you don't see the effects for everyday people for that economy right away. It's hard to say. It's interesting. It's going to be the economic message, the Bidenomics message, I think, is going to be one of the biggest challenges that the administration faces. But I think, we look at these, there's so often we look at these poll numbers in swing states. We look at, the approval ratings of the president. And I think that we can get so lost in the noise there, but you have to understand that, the bigger picture at play. And I think there was one instance of that I want to point out in a New York Times poll that was released this morning. They had one poll of registered voters that leaned towards Trump, and they had another poll of likely voters that leaned towards Biden. So I think, I've had political insiders tell me never pay attention to the registered voter sample, only look at the likely voters, because then you get the people who are for sure going to be headed to the polls, people who are reliable voters. And I think one of the things that's happened over the past several years is there's been kind of a realignment that has occurred in the Trump era, where you have some more of the white working class male voters in particular who've gravitated more to the Republican Party in recent years. Those aren't as reliable of turnout voters. And I think on the Democratic side, you have more college educated people, more women. And a lot of those voters are, those are people who show up in every election, every primary, every time that there's a spring election, school board, stuff like that. You have a lot more people who have been kind of becoming more Democratic voters. So I think that's going to be an interesting thing to see in the polling too, because so much of what we've seen so far is that registered voter sample. And if we get into the likely voters, get into where people are going to be turning out, planning to vote, I think that may change the narrative a little bit as well too.
If you're just joining us, Dan Schaefer is our guest. He is the author of the award-winning Recombobulation Area. You can subscribe on Substack. It's a very, very, very affordable and very worth it.
Currently on sale too, Jane.
On sale. It's so
currently on sale. 25% off through the holidays. You can give the gift of recombobulation as well. So all of our gift subscriptions are also 25% off right now.
Don't wait. Buy now.
That's the best way to say, like, oh, I got the recombobulation area on sale.
It's so Wisconsin.
Yeah,
that's right.
It's such a victory. Talking about a Meet the Press piece that was done talking to some voters in Dane County, particularly young male voters, and they're not particularly happy with the way things are and voters in general. I find it interesting, Dan, that so registered voters, just because they're registered, don't necessarily vote.
That's right. They may have registered years ago, and there's some people. There's many reasons why people might not end up voting, but in these voter samples, that you sometimes get slightly different results when you poll registered voters versus likely voters. And, one of the things that I do at the Recombobulation Area is I break down every new Marquette University Law School poll. So I have had the opportunity to really dig in deep and look at the differences that you see with the registered voter sample versus the likely voter sample. And I think one of the things that used to be the case, it still might be to a certain extent, but it used to be saying that the higher turnout election, the more likely a Democrat is to win. Because you have people who, might not be as engaged in the political process, might be from a more working class background, harder to get to the polls, might have some some other complicating reasons where it might be more difficult to vote. That has changed a little bit over in recent years, where I think you have, when Trump was on the ballot in 2020, that was like the highest turnout for Republicans that we had ever seen in this state. And so I think it's going to be it's going to be interesting to watch whether there will be the same type of enthusiasm among Republican voters for Trump in his third time on a presidential ballot as there were, on the first time when he won in 2016.
Well, and I'm sure Meet the Press listens to the show all the time just for ideas. Hey, Meet the Press, talk to some young women next time. Just a thought. I'm just throwing it out there. They might have slightly different opinions than the bunch of young men that you just talked to on Sunday. So
just possible. The gender gap in Wisconsin politics, that's one of those things that I see in every Marquette University Law School poll too. It's just enormous. It's just a huge difference from, I think looking back at like the Tony Evers and Ron Johnson splits, it was the approval rating for Tony Evers is very high among women and just the same way you have very low approval rating among women for Ron Johnson. So the gender gap in Wisconsin politics is huge and is going to be one of those stories to watch. So whether you have some bros from Madison who are, maybe not so super enthused about Biden right now, might have a little bit of a different conversation when you talk to some women.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I think it will be a far different conversation if you talk to some women. And I think, unfortunately, to put the entire burden of the outcome of the next election on young women, sorry, it's yours. You're going to have to run with it, and you're going to have to come out in big numbers.
It would be interesting, though, to see which women they talk to, because if they're talking to white women, they might get the same answer as the bros based on the turnout of voters for Trump the past 2 election cycles.
But one of the things, though, that I think we have to consider is that the Dobbs decision was after the 2020 election.
Yeah.
And every election since, the turnout among women has been, across the board, all demographics among women has been pretty significant. So I think Democrats have overperformed on that topic in so many ways. And I think that's going to be a big one going into next year as well.
I think so too. And I think women are going to keep watching this because we see what's going on in Ohio now, where the voters came out in full force, and now Ohio Republicans just want to go around that because they didn't get the answer that they wanted. So yeah, women are going to be watching. When we return, Ron Johnson did what? Dan Schaefer is here with the Recombobulation Area. Stay close. You're listening to As Goes Wisconsin across the Civic Media Radio Network.
To electromagnetic sensation, I need you to recombobulate me. I want you to recombobulate me. I need you to recombobulate me. Won't somebody recombobulate me?
Shaw, WAUK.
This is Mean Gene Okerlund, and I'm talking with Brett Yulberg, owner of Robert Hack Diamonds. Brett, I hear you pay cash for gold.
Not only gold, but silver, diamonds in any form like jewelry, teeth, coins, flatware.
Why should I sell you my gold?
Why not? Our store is the only store that recommends you shop around before you sell. This way you know you're getting the most money. But if Robert Hack Diamonds can't beat a competitor's offer on your scrap gold, we'll give you $20 just for letting us try.
Hey, what if I'm shy?
You? Well, at Robert Hack Diamonds, we sit with you at a table. We go through your items and make you an offer. You're not pressured, and we offer more on jewelry that we can resell.
Can I trade my gold for a new piece of jewelry?
Of course you can, and not only that, we can custom make a piece of jewelry using your gold and gems.
Hey, there you have it, folks. Sell your gold to my friends at Robert Hack Diamonds. Visit them on 76th and Layton in Greenfield. Robert Hack Diamonds, where they want your business.
This is the Shaw, WAUK.
Yeah. Get up! Yes, here we go again. Give you more.
Good morning. Welcome to As Goes Wisconsin. Jane Matnair in for Kristen Bry. Kristen will be here tomorrow starting at 10:30. She's been joining us from home while she's on maternity leave, so join us tomorrow morning at 10:30 when Kristen Bry comes back to the show that she began. Greg Bach is running the board today, and as always on Tuesdays, Dan Schaefer, author of the award-winning Recombobulation Area, joins us. Let's talk about our senior senator, Ron Johnson. Dan Schaefer.
Let's talk about our senior senator. Well,
yes.
So often when we see news from Tammy Baldwin, it's like, she's helping out with something in a big project in Milwaukee, or getting energy costs down, or doing something across the state, but bringing some infrastructure back to Wisconsin. That's the type of news we typically see with her. But with Ron Johnson, not the case. And I think a pretty interesting, significant moment happened last Friday with our senior senator. He actually admitted that he was slightly wrong, quote, slightly wrong on something. He got cornered on CNN in an interview with Caitlin Collins last week, in a primetime interview asking about the fake electors. And Johnson was going on saying, alternate slates of electors have
it happens all the time
by Democrat. They get put forth all the time. This is what Democrats do all the time. You're just being media biased, blah, 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 blah. Well, Caitlin Collins fact checked him on that. And it was just honestly a masterclass in how to respond to this type of misinformation and lies that we hear from public officials like Ron Johnson. And in an interview with CBS 58 with AJ Bidepor last week, he admitted saying that what he said was, quote, slightly wrong. So, release the doves, mark the calendar. Ron Johnson actually admitting that he was wrong and lying about something.
Well, he didn't say he lied. He said he was slightly wrong.
That's right. Yeah. But I think he also said what he said was largely true, which I don't know if that's a thing. But it's pretty ridiculous that what Ron Johnson continues to try to say about this fake electors plot, about his role in it, downplaying it and talk, downplaying his role in it, downplaying the action overall. And now 3 years later, almost 3 years later, after January 6, 2021, he's still trying to twist the facts on this over and over and over again. And again, it's quite the contrast to what we see from our other senator in Wisconsin. I always think it's interesting. Like here in Milwaukee, we'll get these press releases a lot from David Crowley or from Cavalier Johnson saying like, hey, federal funds are coming back for,
right,
this river cleanup project or this infrastructure project or this bridge or whatever. And it's always Tammy Baldwin when we hear these types of things. It's never, ever, 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 ever Ron Johnson. And I think it's such a huge contrast. People who want to say that the two parties are the same should look at the two senators in the state of Wisconsin, because they couldn't be more different.
Jane, what was the name of the thing that Ron Johnson was like praising the other day? It was like a whack job, like conspiracy theory newspaper or...
Oh, the Epoch Times.
Yeah, that's right.
The Epoch Times. Because I follow him on Twitter. And yes, he was praising the good, honest journalism from the Epoch Times. I thought my head was going to explode.
It's it's the time of year where we all like to try to express our appreciation and love and gratitude to our loved ones, our friends and family, those close to us, and also the Epoch Times. Apparently,
as one does, yes. And as you were saying, Dan, I see Ron Johnson on my Twitter feed all the time. He's always on Newsmax or Fox or somewhere, and he never does anything. It's all about looking backwards. It's about he's still talking about COVID, for heaven's sakes.
Still talking about vaccines and Hunter Biden.
Yes, and vaccines and Hunter Biden. And what has he actually ever accomplished for the people of Wisconsin? One actual thing that he's done and brought here.
It's
It's a mystery.
It's he is. That's the thing with Johnson, is that he's not accomplished a whole lot. He's been in Congress now
12 years.
For more than 12 years. And he does not have. He's probably the most significant accomplishment that he's had was negotiating even more of a tax break for himself and his wealthy donors. And the Trump tax break, which I think Trump was even talking about it for the past weekend, telling those wealthy donors, "Hey, we're going to take care of you. We're gonna cut your taxes. We're going to make those permanent." So he's just He's a cartoon villain of a senator who's flying back and forth from DC in a private jet to give things away to the wealthiest in the country.
And he's flying back and forth to his place in Florida, by the way.
Yeah.
844-967-2789. Jack from Merrimack. Good morning, Jack. Real quickly, we just got a couple of minutes left. What did you want to say?
Sure. Okay, I'm a scientist, and slightly wrong is if you do a calculation on some kind of natural phenomenon and the answer ends up on your calculation being a million, and you do the measurement and the measurement shows that you were off in the units place, that's slightly wrong. Calling a flat out lie about the reason for the fraudulent elector scheme is not slightly wrong. That is a flat out lie.
Well,
that's all I have to say this morning.
I appreciate that, Jack. Thank you so very much, and thank you for listening. And really, major props to Caitlin Collins, because we don't see enough journalists who are prepared to fact check our politicians in real time on the air. And when they do it after the fact, it's too late, right? Because the lie is out there. Dan Schaefer is our guest from the recombobulation area. You can subscribe. You can give it as a gift for Christmas, and you should. We are not going to see you next Tuesday, Dan, because we are going to be off.
Oh, that's right.
Yes. So thank you so very much, as always, for joining, and thank you for your wonderful recombobulation area. Stay with us. News is coming up next when we return. It's all about music. Stay close. This is As Goes Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Here's my chance to make romance in my B-boy stand. Parlay romancing in the financing. Open up a restaurant with tech dancing. The most you check in, but they never check out. I set the record straight, no doubt.
This is your local Civic Media radio station. Want to hear even more? Anytime? Find all of it at civicmedia.us.
There's excitement surrounding Carroll University basketball this year. Head coach Lindsay Schultz and the Pioneer women are fired up to deliver another winning season in the CCIW. You can catch all the action of every Carroll women's home game right here. Join Don Brown as he takes you from tip-off through all the game excitement on the Shaw, WAUK 540 AM, 101.1 FM, and the Civic Media app.
You are listening to The Shaw, WAUK 540 AM Jackson, W266DR Waukesha, and always streaming on the Civic Media app.
CBS News Special Reports. Washington's National Cathedral funeral services just underway right now for Sandra Day O'Connor, the first woman on the U.S. Supreme Court.
Almighty God, look with pity upon the sorrows of your servants for whom we pray. Remember them, Lord, in mercy. Nourish them in patience.
President Biden is among those who are due to speak. O'Connor died December 1st at 93 years old, appointed to the High Court by Ronald Reagan in 1981. Historian Douglas Brinkley.
She was proud to be a conservative like Ronald Reagan, but pragmatic, that you couldn't exactly know what they were going to do at any minute because they were bringing incoming material to make decisions.
Justice Sonia Sotomayor said of O'Connor, she was a living example that women could take on any challenge, could hold their own against men, and do so with grace. CBS News Special Report. I'm Steve Kathan.
Here's what Wisconsin needs to know. Addressing the cost and scarcity of childcare in Wisconsin is one of the top priorities for the state legislature next year. Former Senate Democratic Minority Leader Melissa Agard says the Republican bill before lawmakers does not do enough.
They're nibbling around the edges. They're not decreasing the cost so that it's more affordable to people. I'm not saying it's a bad bill, but it's not the solution to what it is that Wisconsin needs.
Agard speaking with the Wisconsin Eye Public Affairs Network. 4 brothers and sisters are dead after investigators say a drunk driver drove the wrong way on Highway 10 near Wawega Saturday night and hit an SUV head-on. The victims were the children of a Lutheran pastor and his wife from Wapaka. A Neenah man faces vehicular homicide charges. I'm Terry Bell, Civic Media News. Now here's what you need to know closer to home.
For WAUK News, I'm Stuart J. Waddles. Planned Parenthood of Wisconsin officials have confirmed that Thursday marks the resumption of abortion services in Sheboygan. Appointments are also available at the Milwaukee Water Street and Madison East Health Centers. Scheduling can be done through the Planned Parenthood of Wisconsin website. The Sheboygan County District Attorney is appealing an abortion ruling made by a Madison judge. Homicide rates have fallen significantly in Milwaukee. Police say the city's murder rate has gone down 23% this year compared with last year. They say non-fatal shootings have also decreased. Mayor Cavalier Johnson says the city has a surplus budget, which has enabled them to spend more money on resources such as cracking down on crime. The mayor says enrollment at the city's police academy is full, which means more officers are being trained to serve and protect the city. Walgreens is closing another Milwaukee location. The store at Teutonia and Capitol will close January 15th. And that's what you need to know. I'm Stuart J. Waddles, WAUK News.
I was proud to be a soldier.
I told the truth and got kicked out.
And so I thought to myself, I'm taking this rule down.
If you're an LGBTQ plus veteran, your memories are important too. Share your story with the Library of Congress Veterans History Project, where firsthand accounts from U.S. military veterans are preserved and made accessible for researchers and future generations. Visit loc.gov/vets to submit your stories, photographs, and documents today.
Bucks basketball on tap. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. The Milwaukee Bucks homestand continues with 2 more games. They host the Spurs tonight, then the Orlando Magic on Thursday. Milwaukee with a 4-game winning streak. NFL, the Packers lost 34-20 to Tampa Bay. Quarterback Baker Mayfield had played at Lambeau Field with 2 other teams, the Browns and the Rams, and in his 3rd consecutive trip to Green Bay, he finally got a win with the Buccaneers.
3rd time's a charm, that's for sure. Our team was really prepared to come in here, mentality to come in here with one job in mind and just find a way to win.
Mayfield threw 4 touchdowns, 381 yards through the air, and a perfect quarterback rating of 158.3. I spoke to his favorite target, Chris Godwin, who had 10 catches for 155 yards.
Like I said, we got a lot of grit on this team.
Is it just me, or somewhere about 20 yards downfield off tackle, there's a spot with your name on it?
Yeah.
What was going on today?
Yeah. I don't know.
That's Buccaneers wide receiver Chris Godwin. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
I'm meteorologist Brittany Merlot. Under a mix of sun and clouds today, high temperatures a touch warmer, reaching highs into the mid-30s. Those winds are calming down, only gusting up to 15 miles per hour. So while we may feel crisp wind chills early, the wind pulling out of the south is actually going to aid in rising our temperatures for the rest of the week. It's 19 degrees at our studios.
Folks, I tell you this much, the Cripes Cast is just the butter on my cheese.
Mike and Pat, the hosts of the Crash Dummies podcast.
I was born in Nigeria, actually.
Yeah.
So, I was in Nigerian boarding school for like 3 years. It's like a prison sentence. We were trying to prison break our way out of there because they took our passports. So I was trying to have people send me money so I can find a new passport.
Wait. You were in Nigeria trying to have people send you money.
Yeah, trying to escape.
Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Cripes Cast every Saturday and Sunday at noon across Civic Media and on the Civic Media app.
Local radio for you and your community. It's Civic Media's mission with stations across Wisconsin. Find your favorites at civicmedia.us. From the Civic Media Radio Network, moving Wisconsin forward one joke at a time. This is As Goes Wisconsin with Kristen Bry.
Where it's going, no one knows. Hello, Wisconsin!
Now, filling in for the new mom, here's Jane Matinaire.
Good morning and welcome to As Goes Wisconsin. Shout outs to Oshkosh if you're listening on WISS or on WLAK Lake Air in Amory.
Amory.
My favorite place I've never been yet. And you can always join us. Greg's on the board at 844-967-2789, 844-96.
Party.
Or if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, you can leave a comment there as well. Coming up at 11:30, Dr. Jill Underly is going to be joining us. She is the State Superintendent of Public Education, and we're going to be talking about some of the many challenges facing our schools and our students and our teachers, everything from not having enough staff to making sure that our kids are protected. All of that is coming up at 11:33. Wanted to start, though, with an article, and I tried to get Piet Levy from the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. Wonderful guy, very talented writer, and knows all things entertainment. So he has an article in the Journal-Sentinel about the top grossing concerts and how American Family Field did when compared to all of these other venues.
Yeah.
So Milwaukee did miss out on, like, arguably the two biggest concerts were Taylor Swift and Beyonce.
They'll never come here.
Well, Chicago's right there, right?
I know.
Don't take it so personally, Greg Bach.
This is honestly, this kind of brings up a little bit of, if you are a concert goer and you enjoy seeing bands that can be in larger, like your arenas or your stadiums, it's rare that the big names come here. They go to the big cities, and I understand that, but there's a certain level of like, oh man, we're not good enough.
I just think we're not large enough.
If Beyonce came to Milwaukee, the Midwest would come to Milwaukee.
Oh,
if Taylor Swift decided to come to, and she'd probably have to do 2 nights or 3 nights. Amfam, because I don't know the capacity for many of the places she played, but if she came here, people would travel from all over the world to see her.
Absolutely.
And I think that's just the thing. Give us a chance.
Let us prove we can handle it.
What nice.
According to Pollstar's year-end report, AmFam Field was number 35 on the list of the 100 top grossing stadiums in the world for concerts in 2023. In the U.S., AmFam, the 19th highest grossing stadium. Its peers primarily football stadiums that have bigger seating capacities. So AmFam sold over 178,000 tickets for concerts, and that pulled in $35.4 million.
So how many tickets?
178,107.
Interesting, because I know George Strait was there, and that would be, I think that's sold out. That'd be 40,000+ tickets. That means that we just don't also have a lot of concerts there either, because if you break down the numbers, that's 40 to, that's like 5 or 6 concerts a year there. Yeah.
I mean, it's way up from 2022, according to this article again from Piet Levy in the Journal Sentinel. I reached out to him, and he's unfortunately unavailable. I think he's going to be off for the holidays. The AmFam ranked 78th in 2022.
Yeah.
So this is a big jump up.
And I know with all the stadium stuff, they really want to push more concerts. They want to winterize the place so it can be used year round, which I think is fantastic. Yep. I personally think the the entertainment tax, whatever that tax is, they're only going to do for non-baseball games should be for everything because it'll help. But it seems like this is the way AmFam's going to go. I know they got a couple of my friends are going to go see Green Day and Smashing Pumpkins there next year.
Oh, wow.
At the stadium, at a baseball stadium. That's amazing. These bands used to play like basements.
Everybody's got to start somewhere, Greg.
I know.
Are you familiar with Morgan Wallen?
Yes. Yep.
What genre of music does he play?
He's country music. He's kind of got an interesting sound because it sounds almost like hip hop because his drums are generally like drum machines. And he is very popular. I believe he played 2 nights.
He did. Yeah. In April, he had 2 shows at AmFam. He was number 3 on Pollstar's top grossing North American tour charts.
Yeah.
I will really regret missing out on Pink. She had the 5th highest grossing North American tour. She was at AmFam in August, the first woman headliner with a tour stop in a Wisconsin stadium.
That's what I love about her. And she did if you all have the time, I might even link it in the show notes. She did a great interview on 60 Minutes. And she talked about the fact she wasn't trying to throw shade on Beyonce or Taylor Swift, but the fact that she sold like 3 million tickets and no one talked about it.
Yeah.
Because when you're on tour at the same time as the other 2 artists, I mean, that's Taylor and Beyonce, but Pink is amazing.
She is. And she you're right, though. She really did kind of get glossed over in the midst of all of that. And I would really encourage you to watch that 60 Minutes interview. We'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
She's a gymnast. And that just explains, I had no idea that she had done gymnastics as a child.
Yep.
And this has just morphed into, she puts on her own Cirque du Soleil show.
Yes. Yeah. And she's getting her own Vegas residency, which will be perfect.
Yeah. Oh, that's going to be amazing. Absolutely. And George Strait. Yep, George Strait, number 8 on the list. He played just one of his 14 shows of the year at AmFam Field in June.
He likes Milwaukee. He likes us. And here's how big George Strait is. I've told people this. He could do 3 nights at the baseball field. He could play 20 songs a night. He'd never repeat it. They'd all be number 1 hits on the country charts. And his openers are people who play Pfizer Forum. That's how big he is. I love George Strait.
I cannot say I am familiar. I'm not country music was never my jam.
Yeah, of course.
I'll take your word for it.
He is honestly, he's the real deal. He just sings good country songs. He's a country guy. He's a cowboy. He's a real life cowboy. And he's just cool. I just like him.
AmFam Field is going to be hosting at least 4 shows next year. Kenny Chesney, Green Day, and Luke Combs, who already has 2 dates booked.
Yeah. Country acts come through there, and they usually do
pretty well.
They do really, really well.
Other venues that made the year-end charts for Pollstar, Live Nation-backed Madison promoter FPC Live, number 24. Racking in $108.4 million, 1.5 million tickets sold. The Sylvie in Madison, number 13 on the top grossing clubs in the world.
Whoa.
Made $6 million. And the Majestic Theater in Madison came in at 122, down from number 98 last year, but still with a gross of almost $800,000. So,
fun fact about the Majestic. I've performed there.
You have?
I have.
Is it one of those wonderful old theaters?
Oh, yeah. It's beautiful. You can feel the age. You can feel like the history in it. It's just a great place.
As far as Fiserv Forum in Milwaukee goes, number 81 made $24.7 million, over 209,000 tickets. The Bucks Arena had 2 of the top 10 grossing tours of the year with Drake and Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah.
In 2022, Fiserv was 79th. But made less, $14.7 million. This year, the second busiest for concerts at Fiserv since it opened in 2018, with 21, not including comedy shows and other touring events.
I mean,
people are just happy to get back out, I think.
And also, Milwaukee is really showing itself as a place for live entertainment for these big acts. I mean, the fact, like you said, George Strait, you said it was one of 14 shows he did at all this year. He chose Milwaukee. Pink chose Milwaukee. It's a good spot to be.
I find it interesting, though. Why wouldn't George Strait, someone of that, if he's got that big of a following and that many hits, why wouldn't he go somewhere like Chicago?
You'd have to ask George. If I had to hazard a guess, I'd probably say the fact that he has such a relationship with this city as well. He's been coming here for a long time. It's kind of centralized, maybe it's a little, I don't know, the tickets, I couldn't afford the tickets. They were like, I looked at the cheapest tickets and they were $500.
What?
Yeah, he's a draw. And I'm sure I could have found cheaper tickets, but I also couldn't find anyone who wanted to go with me. And I didn't want to go to see George Strait by myself.
But that's a country song in and of itself.
Yeah. Fair.
I had to go to the show alone.
Because no one else liked George.
I took my dog in my truck, and there you got a number one.
Okay.
You got a number one hit right there.
I took my puppers and my hybrid.
There you go. All right. We're going to switch gears just a little bit. And just a reminder, Dr. Jill Underly will be joining us coming up at 11:33 to talk about public education in Wisconsin and some of the challenges facing our teachers and our students. Congratulations to Quick Trip. And I know you are a quick tripper.
You know how the Spotify does those raps at the end of the year where they say, like, here's what you listen to all year long. Here's the songs that are popular. Quick Trip does the same thing, but it makes you feel like, oh, man, I should eat a little better. I love their food. Don't get me wrong. Quick Trip, sponsor me. But when I get that rap, I'm like, I need to start exercising. But congratulations to the K team.
Yep, they are planning a $151 million business expansion, which is expected to create over 500 jobs by 2027.
Wow. And what does that include?
This includes expanding its dairy, its bakery operations in La Crosse. They're going to renovate an office building in Onalaska. They're going to construct a new distribution center. More than 80% of the products sold in Quick Trip stores are supplied by the company's La Crosse-based food production and distribution operations. So that's where your sandwiches are coming from.
La Crosse, all right.
You want to focus on La Crosse.
The breakfast sandwiches are so good.
Just a sausage and cheese biscuit?
Yeah. It's on a croissant. I like the croissant or the ham and cheese on the croissant. They're very tasty.
Well done, Quick Trip. You have a fan right here.
Sponsor me.
Sponsor the show. That would be great.
Or just me.
You can do that too. If you ever want to chime in, you can join us at 844-967-2789 or leave a comment on the live stream if you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, and or Twitter. We'll be right back. Stay close. You're listening to As Goes Wisconsin across the Civic Media Radio Network.
Amarillo by morning, up from San Antonio. Everything that I got is just what I've got on. When that sun is high in that Texas sky, I'll be bucking at the county fair. Amarillo by morning, Amarillo, I'll be there. They took my saddle in Houston, broke my leg in Santa Fe. Lost my wife and a girlfriend somewhere along the way.
Robert Hack Diamonds pays cash for your unwanted gold, silver, and even diamonds. That's right. Robert Hack Diamonds wants to make you an offer on your gold, silver, and diamonds. The process is very simple. No appointment needed. Just come on in, sit down in a nice, relaxed atmosphere, and the staff of Robert Hack Diamonds will evaluate your unwanted gold, silver, and diamonds and make you an offer on the spot. Then you can decide if you want a deal or no deal. Robert Hack Diamonds can also convert your old jewelry into something new or trade in your outdated pieces for something new and exciting. Many people inherit jewelry that might not be your taste, but you are sentimental. Why not have Robert Hack Diamonds take the golden gems and create something for you? So many options at Robert Hack Diamonds. Again, Robert Hack Diamonds pays cash for your unwanted gold, silver, and diamonds. See them in Brookfield, just east of Moreland on Greenland Avenue, or 76 in Layton, right on the corner in Greenfield. RobertHackDiamonds.com.
morning. Welcome to As Goes Wisconsin. So happy to have you along. Jane Matnair in for Kristen Bry. Greg Bach is on the board. You can always join us at 844-967-2789, 844-96.
Party.
Coming up in just a little bit, about 11:33, Dr. Jill Underly, the State Superintendent of Public Instruction, is going to be joining us. Very excited to have the chance to talk to her, and we will talk about what DPI is doing for our kids and our teachers. That's all on the way at 11:33. Wanted to give a shout out to an organization here in Waukesha because, of course, our studio located in beautiful downtown Waukesha. The Humane Animal Welfare Society, otherwise known as HAWS, is a wonderful, wonderful animal shelter separate from the Wisconsin Humane Society, but HAWS in Waukesha has been around for a very, very long time. So they welcomed 20 new dogs yesterday. The arrival of a 1.5-year-old mixed breed named Frisco marks the 12,000th pet transported by a nonprofit called Greater Good Charities, which helps find homes for dogs.
That's awesome.
Isn't that cool?
Love it.
Every time the plane lands, according to Jennifer Smiha from HAWS, every time the plane lands, every time they open those doors, we hear the barks. We see the animals look through their crates at us. It's an overwhelming sense of, we got this. Frisco is one of 60 dogs flown into Wisconsin from Louisiana and Alabama, and they will be taken to 4 different shelters, including HAWS here in southeastern Wisconsin. This Greater Good Charities began this animal transport program in April of 2021, and they help pets out of shelters that are overcrowded or sometimes tragically dealing with natural disasters.
Oh my God, that's so
But just think about it.
That's so sad, but that's such amazing work.
It really is. But I mean, when you think about, look at the fires in Hawaii, which were not that long ago.
No, not even 6 months, I think.
And we just had terrible weather down south. Again, there was a tornado. And
actually, the 6 months, I was thinking those were the Canadian wildfires.
Oh, no, the Hawaiian wildfires.
Yeah.
I think people forget about that. So if you have an opportunity, maybe it's something you're thinking about for the holidays. 20 new dogs at HAWS.
Oh my God, and I'm watching the video that you put into our planner for the show today, and the dog does the words are cuddly.
They're adorable. If you are gonna, and I have mixed feelings about this because I've talked with the Humane Society and other humane animal welfare officials a lot over the years on whether or not it's a good idea to adopt a pet for the holidays.
Yeah.
You just want to make sure that everybody's on board with it. And I would certainly suggest that you don't give a pet as a surprise.
Nope.
Right? You want to make sure that the receiver is actually on board for all the responsibility that it's going to take.
Yeah. I mean, when we started talking about getting a dog in January of this year. We talked here and there like, oh, we should get a dog if we can, blah, blah. And then in January, when we went to New Orleans, we actually sat down in a restaurant. We were talking and we decided to open the conversation to actually doing this. And we didn't get a dog until less than a month ago. So we really, really thought about it, did research and made sure. Yeah. So giving a puppy or any animal, especially bunnies, they say bunnies are a terrible present because kids get them and they lose interest in them. But we're talking about dogs. Yeah, absolutely right. Do the research, make sure you're all on board. And even if you know you're getting it, you're still going to be so shocked, surprised, excited when you open that box up and
oh, look, he's getting all squishy. How is Maybell?
Perfect.
Maybell, the perfect dog.
She had a little accident on the couch yesterday, but I mean, I gotta say, she's very well trained to go on the pee pads. So I would say 99% of the time she's going on pee pads and doing her business and loving on us. And
she's warming up.
Oh, very much so. Yeah. We're trying to get her to understand how to jump off of a couch. She can leap like an Olympic champion onto the couch, but that jumping down, she just looks at it like, what's going on here?
So what do you do? Do you pick her up and put her down?
We pick her up, we put her down, but Bridget's like, we should get her a stair step. I'm like, no, she should learn. She's right there. If you could see her most of her body is weighted towards the end of the couch. You can see she wants to. I'm like, we're literally days from this happening, and I don't want to spend $50 on a step.
If she can jump up on the couch, she can jump off.
she's having she's I completely agree with you, but if you see her, she gets nervous. So but I also have tried to push her little tush off and like, there you go. But no, she's doing great. She's opening up, she's warming up, she's 4 months now, and she just gives all the love and the kisses and the licks and cuddles and starting to lose her teeth, which I did not know dogs did.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, they have puppy teeth.
Yeah, Bridget's like, what is this? I'm like, this is a tooth. This sucks.
Did you put it under her dog bed so the tooth fairy could
The
come?
tooth fairy came and gave her some kibble.
You're gonna be the most indulgent pet parent on the planet.
No,
yes,
I didn't. For one thing, no, we didn't do that. We're not going to do that. And second, I told you this for Christmas. I said we're not getting her anything for Christmas because everyone else will. We already bought her a ton of stuff.
I was gonna say, does she really need any more stuff? Probably not.
No,
absolutely. Just like kids.
Yeah.
Let grandma and grandpa get all the presents. It'll all be good.
Exactly.
All right. When we come back, Dr. Jill Underly, she is the State Superintendent of Public Instruction, is going to be joining us. All kinds of things going on in our education system and all kinds of challenges that our teachers and our students are facing. We are going to address some of those things and find out what the DPI is doing and what they're looking at for the year as we move ahead. And just one more reminder, Haas again, Humane Animal Welfare Society here in Waukesha welcomed 20 new dogs yesterday. Frisco is the 12,000th pet that was transported by Greater Good Charity. So if you're considering maybe adopting a pet for the holidays, you want to check out Haas and give them a call. Go to their website as well, and you can probably fill out a form a little bit ahead of time in order to speed up the whole process. So I just got a little note. Dr. Underly has a dog. We're going to be talking to Dr. Underly not only about DPI and teachers and students, but we're going to talk about her dog as well. That's on the way. Stay close. You're listening to As Goes Wisconsin across the Civic Media Radio Network.
Now's the time that we need to share. So find yourself. We're on our way back home. Oh, going home. What you need to feel home. Oh yeah, we gotta see. You gotta get a feeling. Oh, yeah, come along too. Come along to this. Come along. Oh, yeah, come along too. Sit back and look.
Civic Media News. I'm Terry Bell. Here's what Wisconsin needs to know. Native American students are eligible for full ride scholarships to the University of Wisconsin in Madison starting next fall. A student must be a Wisconsin resident and a member of a federally recognized tribe to qualify. Graduate students planning to go into law or medicine qualify too. The UW says it's been working with the Great Lakes Intertribal Council to develop the Wisconsin Tribal Education Promise program. A wildlife official says bird flu is likely to blame for killing 34 geese in Howard near Green Bay. Lab results are expected tomorrow. Meanwhile, an outbreak of canine distemper has killed about a dozen raccoons in the Rio area north of Madison. The Department of Natural Resources says people should get their dogs vaccinated and not leave garbage uncovered. I'm Terry Bell, Civic Media News. Now, here's what you need to know closer to home.
For WAUK News, I'm Stuart J. Waddles. 2 Waukesha County jail workers will face a trial after being charged in connection with an inmate's death. Both women, Deborah Link, 65, and Joanna Grace, 33, are facing felony charges of abuse of residents of penal facilities. Yesterday, they entered not guilty pleas. The charges are connected with the death of inmate Randy Glenn Jr., who was found dead in his Waukesha County jail cell. An autopsy revealed small bags containing nearly 10 grams of cocaine were found in his stomach. Places to get prescriptions in Milwaukee are dwindling. Walgreens says they're closing its store at Teutonia and Capitol Drive January 15th, making it the 3rd location to shut down in 3 months. The store had already been reducing its hours. A statement from the company says there are several factors for the shutdown, including shifts in customer purchasing behaviors. And that's what you need to know. I'm Stuart J. Waddles, WAUK News.
If I could be you,
and you could be me for just 1 hour.
if you could find a way,
To get inside each other's mind.
walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out. And for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Bucks basketball on tap. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. The Milwaukee Bucks homestand continues with 2 more games. They host the Spurs tonight, then the Orlando Magic on Thursday. Milwaukee with a 4-game winning streak. NFL, the Packers lost 34-20 to Tampa Bay. Quarterback Baker Mayfield had played at Lambeau Field with 2 other teams, the Browns and the Rams, and in his 3rd consecutive trip to Green Bay, he finally got a win with the Buccaneers.
3rd time's a charm, that's for sure. Our team was really prepared to come in here, mentality to come in here with one job in mind and just find a way to win.
Mayfield threw 4 touchdowns, 381 yards through the air, and a perfect quarterback rating of 158.3. I spoke to his favorite target, Chris Godwin, who had 10 catches for 155 yards.
Like I said, we got a lot of grit on this team.
Is it just me, or somewhere about 20 yards downfield off tackle, there's a spot with your name on it? Yeah. What was going on today?
Yeah. I don't know.
That's Buccaneers wide receiver Chris Godwin. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
I'm meteorologist Brittany Merlot. Under a mix of sun and clouds today, high temperatures a touch warmer, reaching highs into the mid-30s. Those winds are calming down, only gusting up to 15 miles per hour. So while we may feel crisp wind chills early, the wind pulling out of the south is actually going to aid in rising our temperatures for the rest of the week. It's 19 degrees at our studios.
Think you'd like working with us at Civic Media? We're having fun and moving fast to preserve hometown radio across Wisconsin. If you have the right skills to join our team, let's talk. Civic Media is a proud equal opportunity employer committed to diversity and inclusion, along with the growth and development of all current and future employees. If you're interested or are part of an organization who wants to know more, go to our website, civicmedia.us, and click on the Careers tab.
Good morning and welcome to Ascos, Wisconsin. I'm Jane Matnair, in for Preston Bride. Greg Bach is on the board. You can always join us, call or text at 844-967-2789. Very excited to be joined by our guest this half hour. She is the State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Dr. Jill Underly. Good morning. Thank you for joining the show.
Good morning. Excited to be here.
I think you have there we go.
Sorry if I sound a little hoarse. I'm feeling a little bit under the weather and I might cough, but I'll put myself on mute if that happens. So,
Doctor, you're in good company, Dr. Underly. There's all kinds of plagues, little mini plagues going around right now. So there are many people who I think are battling the same thing as you. Speaking of battling, let's talk about school.
yeah.
And
Well,
the
sorry, I'll let you
many,
go.
just the many challenges that our educators are facing in Wisconsin. Where would you
Yeah,
like to start?
absolutely. And I'm sorry, I'm just yeah, I there are a lot of things in my mind when it comes to current challenges facing our schools and libraries. So I'm glad, first of all, that you've had me on the show because I'd love to talk about it. And just the opportunity to talk about it is really wonderful. So thanks again for that. So I'm glad you asked the question about the challenges facing our schools and libraries. There's a lot of reasons for them. Lots of reasons for these challenges. Right now, I mean, we're out in our communities talking to people. It's part of our strategic planning process, and we're hearing about it, right? We're hearing directly from Wisconsin school and library staff. We're hearing directly from families, parents, even students about what those challenges are. What we're hearing is certainly the shortages and wanting great teachers in their classrooms. We're hearing about achievement challenges. Certainly there's lots of room to grow there. Especially when it comes to funding, particularly special education. We're hearing about transportation challenges. I mean, we're reading about transportation challenges. We also hear about the worries, particularly about the ugly partisan and extremist rhetoric, because those voices are loud, right? And even though they're a small minority of people, they're very loud voices, and it's been a distraction from our real work. And we're also hearing about what we're seeing when it comes to bills in the legislature. People are concerned, and they're scared. They're upset and angry about the attacks on trans kids. They're upset about the attacks on our libraries and our librarians. And those are distractions, and they really are hurtful ones at that. And they distract us from the real work that we need to be doing. So those are just a few of the challenges that our schools and libraries are facing.
Dr. Underly, and I think what's at least to my estimation, and I find this especially disturbing, is some of these, efforts to ban books and all of these things are not necessarily happening organically.
Right.
And
Right.
are not necessarily Wisconsin based. These are outside groups coming in to agitate for these things and then make targets of our librarians, which just
Yeah.
it breaks my heart. It breaks
Yeah.
my heart the way that I have seen teachers and librarians demonized to the extent that they have been. That's just wrong.
Yeah, it's really pathetic. I mean, it's really low when you think about who, is being targeted. I mean, you think about these extremist groups are targeting kids, they're targeting teachers and librarians. I mean, it's really just, I don't know, it's just so ugly and it's pathetic. And it's so anti-American when you think about it too, right? Because, um, you know, freedom of information, freedom of thought, being able to go into a library and read a newspaper or a magazine or a book that, what's that's what we're built on in a democracy, is that ability to acquire that information and that knowledge. And we have people who are professionals in that acquisition and the transfer of knowledge. And so then to attack them and to demonize them is really an attack on our democracy, and the values that we hold dear. And so it's just pathetic and ugly. And I'm tired of it because it takes away from all of the work that we really should be focusing on.
Well, absolutely. I can't imagine some of the rhetoric that teachers must be hearing and personal attacks. And again, librarians who I have always thought of as extraordinarily knowledgeable, nothing other than helpful, and trying to turn them into, I don't know. It's just astonishing to me that this is where we are. If you're just joining us, State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Dr. Jill Underly, is here, and we're talking about the challenges facing our schools and our students. What about staffing, Dr. Underly? When we have to look for educators who can deal with all of the things that are going on, it's got to be especially difficult to attract new blood or even to keep longstanding teachers in the profession?
Yeah, I mean, it's all related when you think about it. Certainly, people why they're leaving the teaching profession, or why they're not going into the teaching profession, or even school principals or administrators, and when they're resigning in the middle of the school year, it always comes back to how they're treated. Right? They don't want to deal with the politics. They just want to do their jobs, and they go into these professions because they care about kids. They love their communities, and they want to make the world a better place. And you think about the larger attack on public education. I mean, like you said earlier, it's a national thing. It's not organic coming out of the local level of school parents or community members. This is like a part of a bigger orchestrated agenda. It's really, in a way, looking at how can we undermine public education further. Making sure that we don't have people who want to become teachers is a very good way to do that, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Making sure you don't have people who know the content, right? So what you're going to find out then is you're going to have, or how do they work with kids? You're going to find that, it's going to, long term, our schools are going to suffer, and we're suffering in the short term. And it's not that we don't have people who want to become teachers. We're finding that once they become teachers, they don't stay in teaching. And that's a big deal. I mean, there's a lot of reasons for that. Politics and the culture wars are, in the top three. Salary and benefits are, certainly in the top three, but certainly how they're treated is a big part of that too. And the disrespect that we've been showing them over the past 13 years, especially.
What can we do? What can we do for our teachers?
Yeah, so I mean, certainly the big thing I think community members can do and parents can do is just show our respect for teachers. I mean, they're incredible people. They want what's best for your kid, and so they're certainly reaching out to parents frequently, keeping those lines of communication open, engaging parents, because it is a partnership when your kids are in school. Yes, you are the parent and you will always be the child's parent, but they spend a great portion of their day with other adults, and those adults want to know what's best for your kid by talking to you about it. They want to know more, how your child learns, or what their strengths are, so they can build on those. So certainly showing those, showing that communication, the respect. They're hearing so much negative, so having that support is important. At DPI, we're doing several things. We're continually reevaluating what we hear from the field to help our teacher preparation programs and our school districts get what they need to put high quality teachers in front of kids. We're also taking action on this. At DPI, we're working with licensing, such as like special education induction programs, which is like a network of new teachers in special education. So it's like they have this cohort and this mentorship and network where they can work with each other. We're looking at teacher apprenticeship programs. That's more of a national thing that's coming through the Department of Workforce Development here in Wisconsin, but we're partnering with them to make it more like a traditional apprenticeship model. And we're also really working on our career pathways. High school kids, when you talk to them, a lot of them still want to become teachers, and we need to reinforce that. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the big thing that I think we need to focus on, because when I was in high school and I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do, I had probably a dozen teachers tell me, you should become a teacher. And we're not hearing that anymore. We have more people, and it's parents included, who are teachers, are telling their kids, don't become a teacher. And so these kids, they're exposed to it, they're interested in it, and they want to do it, but they're having people talk them out of it. And when you think about the atmosphere and the climate, yeah, I can see why, but we can't do that. We have to work to make it better. And we have to work to make sure that we're keeping good kids interested in becoming teachers. And so that's why we're certainly reinforcing career pathways and programs to do that. So there's a lot. I mean, we've put stipends for student teachers in our budget requests for the 23-25 budget. And that got knocked out, by the legislature, but we're going to try again. I mean, we're really trying. We really know that having high quality teaching professionals in front of our kids, including teacher aides and assistants and paras. We need that if we're going to have good schools in Wisconsin.
Well, and Dr. Underly, I mean, good heavens, when I think of if we lose all of our public schools, private schools have much different measurements and they don't have to take everyone, is my understanding, correct?
Right, absolutely. I guess the way that I kind of look at this, if, yeah, certainly when I'm trying to explain it to just a person on the street who's like, well, what's the difference? I think about it this way. It's like, think about golf courses, right? Or parks, right? You've got public golf courses and you have private golf courses or country clubs, right? So that's kind of the same thing when it comes to schools. You have to pay a membership or tuition to go to the private, like you would a country club or whatever. They don't have to accept you. You have to follow like certain rules, which could be discriminatory. And if you don't, they can kick you out. They will, there's nothing that says, like once they accept a kid that like if the child has disabilities, well, you know what, we can't serve you. They're not held to the same standards that public schools are. And at the very root of it all, public schools are for everyone. And when you think about our democracy and as a cornerstone of that democracy, public education is critical. If we are going to have an informed, engaged electorate, we need public schools because we need to ensure that every kid is getting the best possible education. They shouldn't have to pay for it. And in order to do that, that's how your democracy survives, and not only survives, but thrives.
Well, and I'm particularly concerned about our rural areas, Dr. Underly, which are already challenged. They have their own challenges in rural areas, and in many instances, several communities are sharing one school or one school system, and there aren't private options available all over the state of Wisconsin. There just aren't.
Right. And the other thing is, when you bring up the rural, certainly the challenges are, just incredible there in rural areas too. When you think about the teacher shortage, like in a rural area, you might have one school. It might have like, let's say one high school, middle school, or one elementary school might only have 200 kids in one building. The districts, we have a lot of districts in Wisconsin that are under 1,000 kids in the district. They're small, and we're already losing people we know in rural areas because of housing shortages. Our birth rate in Wisconsin is low, and our rural areas are aging. So there comes a certain time in people's lives you just can't have any more kids, and
right.
And so our schools are seeing declining enrollment, and it's in rural areas. It's not because they're choosing to opt to private schools. It's because there just aren't enough kids. So they're sharing teachers, or you have one teacher who's teaching maybe advanced math, physics and chemistry, and maybe you find that unicorn to teach that class in high school, and then after a year or two, they're like, what, this is really awful. I could go to a larger school, like in the suburbs or in an urban area, and maybe just teach physics all day. I don't have to, do all this other stuff. And we really,
Dr. Underly, we're coming up.
I'm sorry,
we're coming up against the wall. Can you stay with us through a real short break?
Absolutely.
Great. We're going to continue talking about education, and then we're going to talk about Dr. Underly's dog. That's all on the way. Stay with us. You're listening to As Goes Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Know they love you.
Whatever the season, Fleet Farm has everything to keep your animals happy and healthy. From training your pup to sit season to mastering those retrieval skills season. From clipping your horse for competition season to keeping the backyard birds well-fed season. And of course, loving your pets like family season. There's a reason people say, if Fleet Farm doesn't have it, you don't need it. Because we have it all. Fleet Farm, built for real life.
Be a part of the resistance. Check out the Paul Revere Show with Mark Thompson, Monday nights at 7 on The Shaw. 540 AM and 101.1 FM WAUK, and on the Civic Media app.
It's easy to listen to your favorite local radio station anytime. Download the Civic Media app from the Apple or Google Play Store, then listen live or whenever you want from anywhere for free.
Good morning and welcome to Ask Goes Wisconsin. Jane Matnair in for Kristen Bry. Greg Bach is on the board. Kristen will be here tomorrow at 10:33. She joins us every Wednesday from 10:30 to 11 o'clock while she's on maternity leave and working from home. Right now, though, we're going to wrap up with State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Dr. Jill Underly is here. What are some good things we can look forward to in the new year, Dr. Underly?
Oh gosh, there's so many good things that we can look at. When I think about it, we're focusing on diversity, equity, inclusion, certainly so that all our schools and public libraries can have welcoming learning environments for every kid. When you think about it, at their core, kids need to feel safe. They need to be included. They need to feel that that they belong so that they can be successful. And we're also starting to work on our next budget proposal. That's coming up fast to build on what we got last time, but also what we still need and what we still want so students can be successful, like free, healthy school meals for all. Investment in teacher recruitment and retention programs, increasing funding for mental health, and we want to increase the special education reimbursement rates. So I continue to be hopeful, certainly in our outlook, because our schools need our support and our students are hopeful, and supporting that hope is supporting their education. I'm also going to continue to push for better student achievement, and doing so through our advocacy and policy, like we have with literacy. Teachers are part of that too, so it's also how we demonstrate our advocacy through for teachers. We also, as I said earlier, we need strong teachers in all our schools and strong professional development so that they can be the best teachers for our kids. And I'm also, like I said, with the budget stuff, going to really continue to push hard for mental health services in our schools. I mean, that's what we know that the kids need, and it's what the parents and the teachers want. And it makes sense to push in those programs into our schools because that's where the kids are.
I would just like to remind parents as well. Remember how hard it was during COVID, during lockdown, when your kids couldn't go to school? Remember that the next time you see your child's teacher, and be kind, because I think that was eye-opening for a lot of people, Dr. Underly, when they had to take over the responsibilities of an actual professional teacher. And I would have hoped and hope that the appreciation is there for what our educators do, because you do so much more than just teaching reading and writing. The amount of responsibilities we expect from our educators is pretty remarkable. Dave from the Shaw is on the line. Good morning, Dave. What did you want to say to Dr. Underly?
Good morning. First off, I just want to thank Dr. Underly for her advocacy, her work at the state level, because it definitely impacts things at a local level. Speaking as a parent of 2 kids in public schools and the spouse of a public school teacher, like, we need good leadership. But I think I wanted to just chime in and say, like, we have to have good leadership at a local level as well. As someone with boots on the ground here in Waukesha, who's feels like they're at kind of a ground zero of all that you were talking about, Dr. Underly, of all the not so great things happening in education. I think part of that reason is because we've elected these extremist board members who've implemented some really poor policy. So people out there listening, you have to vote for strong public education, and that includes a vote for Dr. Underly, but also local leaders as well.
Thanks a lot, Dave. Really appreciate it. It's Dave from the Shaw. Dr. Underly, we only have a couple of minutes left.
Yeah. So thanks so much. Go ahead.
I want to ask about your assistant, Abigail, snitched on you and let us know that you have a dog and that you volunteer at an animal shelter because we were talking about Hawes Humane Animal Welfare Society here in Waukesha. So tell us about Dr. Underley's dog.
So I was listening to that earlier too before I jumped on, and his name is Angus. He is a black Labrador Retriever mix, and he just sits outside my door. Like right now, he's just outside my door, like probably whining. I had to give him a bone to like a rawhide because he will just be pawing at the door. He is attached to my hip. Like I'm scared sometimes for my life because he's behind me, and if I
And you're
step
gonna trip?
backwards, like in the kitchen, I'm gonna fall backwards. So he is very, very dependent. He is definitely my dog. I love him dearly. And my family, yes, we do volunteer at the Iowa County Humane Society, and we do that as a family, which I love, and we look forward to it. When you think about, teachers and you think about people who care about, others and have this empathy, I mean, pets are included in that. So
How do you manage to stop your children from bringing home every animal that they work with at the animal shelter? Because that's got to be really, it's like, Mom, just this one.
yes,
Come on, Mom.
it's so hard. It is so hard. Yeah, I definitely have to check my daughter's pockets in her hoodie before we leave. Make sure there's no kittens or anything stuffed in there. No, we just look forward to it. It's like our way to get our fix, right? To have those pets. We have a lot of pets here on our farm, and yeah, it is tough, but that's how we deal with it. We go, and that's how we get our fix.
Well, and I wanted to share, we had a couple texts from earlier also that we're talking about you fostering dogs. So if you can't necessarily adopt an animal, and not everyone has that ability, but you can actually foster dogs. This texter said she's going to foster a dog for like 4 days over Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just to get him out of the shelter and get him a little bit acclimated. So that's
Yeah.
a pretty cool thing if you can manage to do
Yeah.
that too.
Some of these animals, these dogs especially, are in shelters for a year
Way
or
too
more.
long.
Yeah, way too long. And it's really sad that they grow up. A lot of these animals that we see, their owners have died. And just family members don't want to take them in.
Oh,
And it's just really working with them because they don't understand what's going on. They miss their owners. They don't know why they're at the shelter. And they had a good life before, and now it's not so good. And so that's the hard part when you know their backstory, and you really feel compassion for them. But yeah.
well, and you're teaching your children some very, very valuable lessons about compassion and kindness and caring, and good for you and good for
Thank
them.
you. Thank you. And if I could just really fast just to address the caller. I know we got a break, but thanks for bringing up those issues, Dave. School board membership and leadership matters when it comes to school achievement, but also the policies, because they can change those policies. And I'll be honest, those policies are not coming from local level. They're coming from national.
Absolutely. State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Dr. Jill Underley, thank you so very much for your time. Really appreciate it. Stay close. News is coming up next. Keep it right here on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Martha, my dear, though I spend my days in conversation, please remember me. Martha, my love, don't forget me. Martha, my dear.
Conversations and a whole lot of fun. It's all on your local Civic Media radio station or the Civic Media app. Up North News Radio with Pat Kreitlow.